Welcome to the Binge Breakers podcast. I'm Jacqueline. I am here to teach you how I overcame bulimia and my binge eating disorder, and how you can too. Through simple steps of mind management, repairing your relationship with yourself, understanding your habits, and intuitive eating.
Disclaimer. This recording is not intended to be utilized as medical advice or a medical diagnosis. If you think you're in need of medical attention or treatment, please seek it immediately. This recording will also contain sensitive subjects such as binging and purging, weight, and depression. Please listen at your own discretion and do what you think is best for you. Hey everyone, welcome to the podcast. I just came home from a spin class. Been doing a lot of those. It's basically a nightclub for cycling. I don't know why no one told me about this, but it's a lot of fun. So if you guys are one of those people out there that are opposed to group fitness classes, you're like, I don't know. I'm a solo workout person for sure when it comes to lifting weights, but for your cardio, check out a group class. So much fun. But anyway, today's podcast is going to be an interview with Renae Saager. She is a fellow coach. She is all about how to just eat normally and repair your relationship with food. And even more than that, I just love Renae. I've been following her ever since I started my own coaching business and started my Instagram, and I just found her in that community. She struggled with bulimia and alcoholism and all of that sort of stuff, but she is just one of a kind in terms of her personality. And we start off our conversation right off the bat about how she can be so confident and what she's like. And she just has a world of amazing things to offer. So I really want to gear you up for this interview. I think it's gonna be a good one. We just have a really fun conversation and she's just hilarious. So if you don't know who she is, go check her out on Instagram and listen to this episode, and I hope you guys enjoy it. We really touch on some key points, and I think you'll relate quite a bit to her. And she's very different than me in a lot of ways too, which I love. Renae's like kind of crazy and fun and blah. And I think I'm a little bit more reserved than her. Apparently she's an introvert as well, but I think it's fun that our personalities, they mesh a little bit, even though she's just completely different than me. And I think we differ on some opinions too. So it'll be fun, to have her on. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great weekend. I hope you guys enjoy this. And also remember, group coaching enrollment for my October program. That's a program coming up where I'm taking 7 people. It's going to be very small and tight knit. And we are going to be coaching together for 3 months. This group coaching was specifically placed so that it's going to take you through the holidays and give you support from me and other people and go through the program. I'm excited. And if you are interested, you can check that out in the links below or go to my website and you'll find a link there as well. But check it out. If you're even at all kind of like, I wonder what that is, you can sign up and go look up for more info. But anyway, other than that, I'm feeling really good on emotional high. So I'm going to let you guys listen to the episode. I'll step away and yeah, bye. I know. It's like, I talked to Renae, it's happening. It's go away. So we can cut out whatever, it's nice that if you record it and then live things always freak me out. Cause it's like, who knows what you're going to say, but it always works out.
Yeah. I never actually edit any of my podcasts. So I'm like, let's let her rip.
Good for you.
Whatever comes out of my mouth needs to be out there apparently.
Well, how do you even, I guess let's start out right off the gate. How do you even get to that point of being confident enough to just let whatever, like, let's say you make a huge mistake. How do you just let it go out,
Yeah. It's funny, growing up, my mom always said to me, do you ever think before you speak, Renae? And no, the answer is still no. I think that, how do you get to that point? I mean, really, we all mess up. We all say things that we're like, oh, that was stupid. The thing that makes it worse is when we try and like backtrack and be like, oh, blah, what I meant, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, it just makes it massive instead of just like, okay, like you just let it roll off the back of your shoulders or whatever, right? Because when we stop and we try and fumble over our words and make sense of it or whatever, it then kind of like draws attention to it instead of just, it's like trying to cover up a zit and you like put all this cakey foundation on it instead of just like, hi, I have a zit. Do you know why? Because I'm human being. So can we just move the hell on with our life? Right. And there's just so much of this that we try to make look perfect. And I think something also for me that has been validating and helped me become more confident is the amount that I receive when I am, right? I didn't like come out of the womb super confident. And in fact, I had many, many years where it was like debilitating anxiety. I didn't want to go anywhere. I was worried everyone was thinking about me when I walked into any room. But then the more honest and transparent and just human I let myself be, the more people were drawn to that. And so it's like we spend so much of our life trying to be this like robotic person that looks perfect, acts perfect, eats perfect, exercises perfect, has the perfect job. And it's like, I mean, those people are out there, but they're not my people. Like I don't relate to that at all. Like I want to have fun and be real and have hard conversations and talk about real life stuff. And that doesn't mean that you don't try and you don't be nice and you don't prepare and you don't do nice things and that, but it's just like giving yourself that permission to be human, to be like, yeah, I totally didn't do this right. I'm going to do better next time, instead of just completely shutting down, making it a huge deal. You know, this would be something if I ever said something hurtful to a friend, and it would just like, oh,
it kills you.
why did I do that? Why did I do that? Why did I do that? And then after, like, I really thought that I was going to have stress ulcers because I was just always so on edge that I was like, I was sure I had ulcers. And it was just that constant, you know, of anxiety going. And so I just had to get, you know, with practice to that point of like, I'm going to apologize. And that's all that I can do. Right. Like that is the best that I can do. Sitting here and working myself into a panic attack isn't going to be helpful for anything. Like I'm
doesn't take back what you said.
Yeah, I'm just creating all of this unnecessary suffering. And so it's like, okay, I'm going to own it. I'm going to admit to it. I'm going to acknowledge it. And then I'm going to do better next time, because that's really all that we can do.
Yeah. Wow. I agree completely. Even though I'd say I'm still working on that, being unapologetically just kind of you. And then like, if you make a mistake, just owning up to it and not necessarily worrying, you still, like you said it beautifully too. It takes practice. You can be like, okay, I'm not going to worry. And then your brain's like, but here's the worry. So it does take time. Yeah. I'm trying to get to that phase, but that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, because for those people listening, like I think that you, your Instagram, I followed you over a year ago now. But the thing that attracted me to you most of all was just that you were like unapologetically you, so confident and so funny. And because you weren't afraid to make a fool of yourself, like some of your dance videos are just so hilarious. And I was watching and I'm like, I can't imagine putting on a suit and doing the things that Renae does. It's just, but it's so admirable. And you're right. People see that. And, you know, sometimes Instagram, I can't scroll too often because even the people that are trying to do good things on Instagram, they're always just like smiling and like everything's happy, and it feels just pisses you off a little bit. I don't really like it. So I always like your Instagram is just a breath of fresh air, because it's very confident, it's very uplifting, and yet it's silly and it's you. And you definitely say things with when it seems like there's no filter. And now I kind of know why.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. I appreciate that. And, you know, I think that that's kind of part of my purpose on this life, is that I don't, because I have practiced this for a while, I love to give other people, client or not, just random people on Instagram, that also that permission to just be free, right? We all live in these, like, what I equate it to is like this glass box. We're in this constricted glass box where we're like, don't do this, just say that, just eat this, just do this, just do this. And it's like, oh my gosh, we have got to break out of that. And it's easier to like get a boost of endorphins from me and be like, holy shit, if she's doing that, I can do that. And then it kind of ripples. And then when you show up more authentically, it gives your people that permission to show up authentically. And then it's like, we just get to be ourselves, which is something that I think all start out as. And then as we grow and get older, we're told, don't do this, just be that. And we're given all these ways to mold and manipulate ourselves. And then this second part of life is like, hold up, let's break out of this and let's figure out who we are again now. And it's just, for me, it is freedom. It is pure freedom to be able to just be me and to also let other people be them. And that doesn't mean that you need to have gold metallic bodysuits and dance around on Instagram. Like this authenticity.
Exactly what you need.
Yeah, authenticity is different for everyone. You know, you don't have to be outgoing. You don't have to be crazy and loud. It's just whatever it is for you, owning that. Like if you are the introvert at the party, which I actually am a bit more introverted than extroverted, like, okay, yeah, I just don't really like parties. Like there's this one guy, his name is Chris. He lives in Portland. He was my friend's friend, but we went to this nightclub. It was called Blow Pony in Portland. It's this big gay dance nightclub. It's so
You're
fun.
cool.
And he takes a book and sits at the bar. And there's like techno music and strobe lights. And he's just like, okay, like read it. And I'm like, hell yeah. Like to just own that. So him doing that kind of would then, you know, I would kind of suck up that energy too and not make it mean, oh, I guess I need to be quiet, calm, reserved. I need to chill out. I was like, look at him. He doesn't give a shit what people are thinking about him. He's literally at a nightclub reading a book. And
so good.
you know, yeah. So then it's just like, we all just get to be our truest self, which is the most fun.
It's much less exhausting too. You're not trying to keep two versions of yourself, like the one that is actually you, and then the person you put out. That person that you put out that is fake, just it drains me every time trying to be someone that you're not. And so many things to upkeep in your mind. I love that. I would totally be, you know, I've gone to nightclubs and I don't bring a book, but whenever I've gone to a baseball game with my family, that my family's like sports fanatics, but I hate it. I always bring a book to read. Just like, I hate this. So just owning that part of you. That's great. I feel like we're going to switch gears a little bit, but for those that want to first introduce you formally, but guys, this is Renae Saager, and she's a life coach, and she helps people actually find food freedom, end the war with food, that sort of stuff. And she also just, like we've been saying, helps people with confidence and being themselves and loving life. But I brought her on just because, obviously, as you guys could hear, I really do admire her in a lot of ways. But you also have kind of a history with an eating disorder and just turmoil with food and some relationships with alcohol too. Can you just tell us, like, you know, you're here, this shiny person who gets in metallic bodysuits and dances around. What were you like before all of that? What was your history with food and that sort of stuff?
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned, like I definitely didn't come out the womb like this. I think I came out the womb like a tightly wound rubber band. I was very anxious. I was very just like kind of on edge. And I just have a lot of memories as a child of my mom saying that, just like, oh my God, just chill out. And I was like, I don't even know what that means. Like, I don't even know what that means. And so I was just
how does one chill?
Yeah, I was just constantly on edge and just like a tightly wound rubber band, frequently just waiting to snap. And I started finding some relief from that anxiety. I also had some relationships with friends in middle school that just started getting really hard. Like I kind of started getting pushed out of the social circles, and all of the friends that I used to have were no longer there. And so that just kind of added to that anxiety of like, nobody likes me. Nobody likes me. Nobody likes me. And what I found was that I could funnel some of that pain, discomfort, fear into diet and exercise. And so I started getting interested. Like I was always kind of into sports. I played a lot of soccer and stuff. And so I was somewhat active, and I just started running a little bit more after school. my dad was pretty into fitness. And so we had a gym downstairs. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do some of this stuff. And what started out as harmless, I started getting interested in fitness and nutrition and buying Shape and Oxygen magazines. And of course, at that time I was 14, 15, and my body was just like very receptive. So I kind of had this combination of controlling my food, focusing on exercise, not having to worry about being pushed out of relationships in school. And
Right.
I funneled that anxiety into my food and exercise. And then also I started getting a lot of compliments about my body changing, 14, 15. And so I was
Mm.
like, oh, this is hard for people. This is easy for me. Let's do it. Let's go all in. And that's kind of my personality, is like, oh, we don't do things a little bit. Like, we go all in. And so it just really took off. I did what many people end up doing, is like obsessively tracking all of my calories. I had post-it notes filled with like tracking how many I'd eaten that day, and always trying to go lower and lower, and always trying to run further and further, and doing crunches at night. And it became this, what was once like, I think I'm going to go run for 30 minutes, to I have to push myself, to I think I'm going to eat this, to like I'm not eating anything. And it was just like this switch. There wasn't necessarily like a day or a thing that I can remember. It was kind of gradual, but it also happened really quickly, because I just got, the compliments from, oh my God, you look so good. What are you doing? Tell me what you're eating. And it started going to, you look so thin. Are you okay? Talking to my
Right.
mom, what's wrong with your daughter? She should see someone. And I was just like, screw all of you guys, leave me alone. This is my life. I'm going to do whatever I want. And it then, I would restrict so severely during the day, and thank God my body does what a body does when it's deprived, is I started binging at night. And my food, it got so exhausting that I couldn't trust myself to eat anything during the day, because it was like, once it started, it literally felt like I broke through this seal, and I had no idea how the day was going to go. I was like, if I have school, if I have appointments, if I have soccer, like I can't start eating, because I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if I'm going to be able to stop. I don't know if I'm going to binge. I need to not eat for as late as I can. So then once I do start eating, I can just like let myself eat.
Oh, it's
And
like reinforcing the cycle of binging, hardcore.
Yep. And so I would binge so much at night, and everyone would go to sleep, and I'd go out into the kitchen and I'd eat a loaf of bread, and I'd heat up soup, and I'd eat cereal and tortillas. And I would be so full that I couldn't even stand up straight. And I would just like fall into bed in the fetal position. And then I'd wake up, no food, work out, right back at it. And I did that for quite a while, and I really felt insane, because I was like, why can't I stop eating? And I really didn't make that connection. And I was terrified to eat earlier, because I was like, I just can't. My day goes haywire if I start eating. And this is the only thing that I can do. And I had been eating so much food. I was like Googling, can I tear my stomach? Because it was just so painful. And I remember one night I had eaten so much food, and I went into the bathroom and I threw up. And I was like, oh my God, this just got real. As if restricting and binging wasn't really that bad, but like throwing up was serious. And I still think that it gets that label, and I can talk more about that in a little bit, but I don't know that it's that helpful, that it's like bulimia gets taken so seriously, and all this stuff over
Binge
here.
eating
Like,
doesn't.
yeah. And like, I
It's
don't know, like,
BS.
yeah, we could talk about that. But, I started throwing up, and I remember like being terrified, but also literally in that moment thinking, this is the key. This is the key to everything I've ever wanted. And for a little bit, I started mastering it. Like I started becoming a professional bulimic. Like, it took up my entire day until I didn't have a choice anymore. Similar to the restricting and binge eating, my bulimia, it was like taking a breath. Like I couldn't not do it. It consumed everything about me, everything I did, jobs that I took, relationships that I had, everything revolved. And I was like constantly doing the equations to like, okay, when are they going to be gone? When can I binge? When am I going to burn it off? It was like, I never stopped. It never stopped unless I was asleep. And that went on for years, almost 15 years of binging and purging multiple times a day. Like I consider a lot of my binge and purge episodes like really violent, like just absolute insanity. Dirty gas stations, throwing up in bottles, stealing food, like just everything. And I ended up going to treatment for a couple of times. And it was okay. I never had any problems in treatment. Like I went to treatment and I was like, oh, you're just going to bring me my food? Like, this is no problem. Like I went to treatment with like a lot of anorexic people and they wouldn't eat their bread and they didn't eat mayonnaise. And I was just like, let's have it. Let's eat it. Like, I want this. I wanted so desperately, like I loved food and I wanted to eat it. Like I had outgrown that anorexia phase. And so I was in this different phase and I was like, I just want to eat some food and not lose my mind. Like, I just want to eat a sandwich, not 7. I want to have a bowl of ice cream, not 3 cartons and a thing of cereal. And, you know, I went through a couple cycles of treatment and I ended up gaining a little bit of weight and my weight kind of stabilized. Finally, it was at this point, but it was still this, like, I was never really free of it. Like, it was just I often give the example of it being like 100-pound backpack that I would just kind of have to put on every morning. And I'd be like, okay, here we go. Like just me and my bulimia just coming everywhere. Like, I never got that freedom from it. And, you know, it was not hitting rock bottom because as you mentioned early on, I kind of forgot this part, but when I started throwing up, I really also started using alcohol. Like my bulimia sorry, I skipped that part. My bulimia got so bad that I realized that when I would drink, I wouldn't eat. And when I didn't eat, I didn't throw up. And so I was like, oh, finally, because I really just wanted to be able to like sit down and watch a movie at night. And so I was like, oh my God, I can drink this. I don't want to binge. I don't want to purge. This is so enjoyable compared to just like the Tasmanian devil life that I had been living in. Unfortunately, alcohol kills you much faster, especially when you drink the way that I did. And so that started at like 17 or 18. And I went to my first rehab. I had cirrhosis of the liver at 20. My doctor, like, I was in the emergency room and my doctor's like, you will die if you keep doing this. And so I ended up getting sober and took that out. But then the food stuff just kept going. And I was so frustrated because as people were addressing the alcohol, I really felt like they were missing the big piece, which was my food. I was like, listen, if I didn't feel so insane around food and my body and all of this, like, I wouldn't have wanted to drink. And so I really felt like a lot of my problem was getting neglected. And it was just like, let's get sober, stop drinking. I'm like, okay, yeah, fine. But what about the food? Like, it just made me feel insane. And then, you know, as I gained weight and looked, quote, normal, people really assumed that I was normal and that I was fine. And nobody really knew because I was very much a functioning bulimic / binge eater. You know, I had jobs.
You're not going to tell everyone about it or let them in on it.
Yeah, I had jobs and I had relationships and I had some money, not a lot because I spent a lot on binge eating, but you know, I was doing life. And, you know, for me, it really got to the point of wanting better. And so this is what I was talking about before I remembered the drinking piece, is that often in AA, they talk about, oh, she hasn't hit her rock bottom. Like she just hasn't hit her rock bottom. And for me with food, I was like, I don't feel like I can get much worse. Like, I
Right.
don't know what else I can't get much worse. And it really wasn't like the switch that kind of flipped for me wasn't hitting rock bottom, but it was like, I want better for myself. Like
Mm-hmm.
that was really the thing that switched for me was my food was okay. Life was pretty good. And I was like, I'm so tired of this thing coming with me everywhere that I don't, when I, 5 years from now, I don't want to still be dealing with this. And so that
Mm-hmm.
was when I really kind of buckled down and I was like, whatever I need to do to just like be done with this so I can think and just exist in my life with ease, I'm in. Like I don't care what it takes. I'm willing to go to any length. And that was really when I started doing my own work, and learning about intuitive eating and learning about, health at every size and learning about stress and emotions and all of that stuff that I felt didn't really ever get talked about, or maybe it did and I just wasn't in the headspace. Things just landed differently at that point. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's kind of some of my story.
it's kind of, thank you for sharing that. First of all, it was a really good summary of everything. It's hard to fit your entire story into a short
Yeah.
segment, right? You're like, where do I start? But no, it's interesting you mentioned that like maybe those things were there because in my bulimia too, like a lot of the things that I found later had been there. The resources
Yeah.
have been there and I just wasn't looking for them, wasn't in tune for them a lot of times because when I was bulimic, I don't know if you can relate, I was just always looking for weight loss advice. I
Oh
never
yeah.
once looked up mental health advice, like how to, love your body. The only thing I read was Brain Over Binge, and that's it. And that, like, I read it, it was helpful, but then I still spent 3 more years of bulimia. So it
Yeah.
just, and then it wasn't until I found Corinne Crabtree's podcast, which was a weight loss podcast, thank God, because then she talked about how to love yourself as well and like my management. And that's
Interesting.
what got me into, oh, maybe I should be like working on my brain. That's what,
Wow,
yeah.
cool. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you're absolutely right. Like I would see dietitians and you know, personal trainers and everything and I was like just give me the meal plan so I lose weight. Okay? Like save your shit. Like just give me the meal plan so I lose weight. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that these are the kind of clients that I love working with is that you really have exhausted all of those because I honestly think that I really think that we have to go through all of that to get to the point of I'm ready to do something different. Because I did the same thing that I think a lot of us go through. And that's because our society puts such an emphasis on maintaining this thin figure that it's like I just tell me how to stay thin, just tell me how to restrict successfully, which is I think what a lot of people out there sell. Like I'm going to help you restrict successfully, however it rarely successfully works. And so I think that we go through all of that and then reach this point, which I don't know about you, but I reached where I was like, I'm willing to try anything. Like I was so ready to just be done with it that I didn't want a diet. Like I had done so many diet plans, programs. I mean, 12-step meetings for food, not buying food, eating all the food, not taking my credit card to work, like you name it. I tried everything. And
Mm-hmm.
so I really had kind of exhausted all of my efforts that I was like, okay, please just, I'm willing to do anything.
Yeah, I still lost some weight after recovering. However, it was from a much different place and it was for very different reasons. So
Yeah.
I did kind of put it on hold and I was like, I'm just ready to try something else. I don't even care. I was already at my heaviest weight when I was in bulimia too. And I was just like, I just needed to be
Yeah.
done with this. But then after I'd recovered, I felt very like out of breath all the time, very like it was hard for me to go upstairs and I felt just like sluggish. So I did, and I also like wasn't really loving how my body looked. I didn't hate it though. It didn't come from that deep-seated hatedness. I was just like,
Yeah.
I don't feel my best. I think that we can make changes that would better our lifestyle. And but before it was always from this desperation place of like,
Yeah.
if I could just lose weight, then I'd feel better. And that wasn't
Yeah.
actually the case. And it sounds like you kind of reached that point too. But How did you then even just start to pick up the pieces there? What did you try? How did you recover?
Um, I really just kind of decided, for anyone with bulimia, like, I don't know how you teach, but this is from my own personal experience, is that the purging has to stop first. Like,
Sure.
you like that and that's the hardest thing. And so that really was my first, like, no matter, this is what I'm doing. Like, this has to stop first. And I got to tell you, Jacqueline, I went through some really big eating episodes where I was just like,
Sure.
and like, maybe I'll just throw up this one time, and maybe I'll just do this one time. And over time, when you eat enough food consistently, your body doesn't continually binge, right? Like, when you really develop that trust with food and your body, and you're going to be fed adequately, that intense desire to open all the cupboards and panically eat like peanut butter with a spoon, like that just out of control feeling, it just quiets down because you've fed yourself enough. You've balanced out your blood sugar, your hormones are okay. So that was really the first piece for me, was like, okay, I'm going to not purge no matter what. And that, easier said than done, but like, that was really the pivotal point for me, where I was like, okay, let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really hard to stop binging when you are hungry all the time, or you don't really trust yourself with food, or you're not getting enough food. It's just like, it's not that it can't be done, but you're going to make it a hell of a lot harder that way. So I completely agree. And the purging, I really like, even after I'd recovered and stopped, I still had so many times where I thought about purging. That still sometimes, like, I don't know how far you are from recovery, but for me, sometimes I still get a few urges to purge. They're faint, they're like thoughts breezing in the wind, but it's just, it still comes up, and it's like, oh, we could just do it this one time, and it's like, what? No. So it keeps you in it.
I really like just kind of that normalization of it though too, because I think, I've been sober a bit longer than I've been in recovery with my food stuff. I've been sober for 12 years, and I still think about having a drink. And it doesn't mean I'm close to relapse. It doesn't mean I'm bad. It doesn't mean I'm not doing recovery right. And I think that that's a huge part of just like normalizing this process too, of, okay, so what? So you want to purge? Okay, like, you want to eat, you're stressed out and you want to go to the store and buy an entire sheet cake. Like, okay, I think when we can kind of normalize some of those thoughts, it just is like so relieving and freeing, because then it doesn't control us, right? Like, if I started wanting a drink or wanting to binge and I panicked, first of all, a huge reason a lot of us binge and or purge is because of emotions. We're stressed out, we can't manage stress. And so all that's doing is like actually pushing you to binge eating faster, instead of just, oh, this is what I want to do right now.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Just treating it as if it's a thought, as if it's just something your body is suggesting, but it's not a command.
Yeah. And then we don't have to react to it. And so I like that too, that you just talk about that, and it's like, okay, cool. Like, there's the thing with the thing that's really different from drinking and eating is that drinking, you quit it, right? You just stop, you just don't drink. Eating is like, wait, what? So I just don't binge, like, but I still have to eat. That would be, in my brain, was like, okay, so that would be like the equivalent of saying, okay, Renae, you're going to be in recovery from alcohol, but you can have 3 beers a day. And I'd be like, what? Like, this is never going to happen. And so that with the food stuff, I think it's so important to remember that it isn't a line in the sand. Like, you're going to have days where you eat a lot of food. You're going to have days where you don't get enough food. You're going to have days where you feel gross in your body. You're going to have days that you feel amazing in your body. And just really remembering that this is on a spectrum, and taking, again, some of that intensity and just like, I have to do it right. It's like, your food is never going to be, quote, like, you're going to get sick and you're going to lose weight, and then you're going to vacation and you're going to gain weight, and then you're going to what, who knows? Right. But it's, and no matter what happens, I'm going to be fine. Like that is the freedom. That is like, oh, I can, no matter what, I'm going to be fine.
Yeah.
Right. Gwyneth Owen talks about eating disorders as the misidentification as food as a threat. And that's a lot of what I think that we often would struggle with. And so when you stop seeing food as a threat and you're just like, okay, just like food is water, food is nail polish, food is food. It's just like really normalizing and neutralizing how you see food, because then you can exist around flour and sugar and not lose your mind. Right. This is something that I have found to not be so helpful with bulimics, especially. I mean, first off, I just want to say, I'm assuming a lot of your listeners are bulimics, and I love bulimics. I love bulimics because they're like so go-getters, and I often find they're really funny, and they're just like, oh, I just think that they have I relate to the personality a ton. But I think that no flour, no sugar, and more rules around, especially with bulimic women, is so unhelpful. I know for me, when I went to OA meetings, FA meetings, and it was like, follow this meal plan, cut out flour and sugar, weigh and measure everything. It just like fed into that anxiety. And, I could hang on for a couple of days, but then I was like, fuck it. I can't, I have to eat. I'm like, I'm going to start over tomorrow. And so like releasing some of those rules is really, for me, was so helpful in just feeling normal around food.
Yeah, absolutely. I have yet to find a way that I could not have flour and sugar in my life. I'm sure if they made flour and sugar illegal tomorrow, I would survive. I'd be like, all right, I guess we'll have to do this. But it just, whenever I try to do something that is, unsustainable, I'm not really prepared to give up cupcakes for the rest of my life. It just really puts this box around you and makes that more taboo and enticing and that forbidden fruit sort of thing. And it feeds into that anxiety that you're talking about of like, I got to keep track of this. And it also just, I don't like cutting out those things because it reinforces the belief that you can't be trusted around that food. So when you do have that food, you don't even try to like have a healthy boundary with it because you're like, fuck it, it's the forbidden fruit. So whatever. Some people, I have talked to some people where they like, that works good for me. And I don't, when I have sugar, I just become a different person. I'm like, okay, if it works for you, it works for you. I just haven't found in my own life. And commonly when I work with people, it doesn't seem to work for them either. Did your dog just come in?
Yeah.
So cute.
Hi, Mom.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about body confidence. There's something else about food that you said that I really related to. Oh yeah. So with bulimia though, when you were with those anorexics, obviously they need to push themselves and eat more, right?
Yeah.
But with bulimia and binge eating in particular, there is like, you have to draw healthy boundaries. You have to kind of like be like, hey, I don't need the whole sheet cake. Just one piece is going to be okay. 1 or 2 pieces even would be perfect. How did you, if at all, was it just eating enough food that for you worked, and then the desire to eat tons of food lessened, or did you have to practice any healthy boundaries and try to reinforce that?
Oh gosh, I am a big rebel. A lot of the people that I work with don't quite have the rebellion I do. My boyfriend still talks about it to this day. Like he knows, do not put any limits on me because I will break through those like a bull. Like I just hate being restricted. And I think a lot of that came from 15 years of my life being restricted in some way. Even when I was bulimic, a lot of that came from that restrictive mentality, right? And so it was just like it was like taking your bra off at the end of the day, where I was like, when I started binging and purging, I was like, finally I'm free. And so like, I hate restrictions. For me, the biggest thing was allowing myself to eat it. It was really allowing myself to eat it. I talk about this a lot, that in like the first 6 months or so of my own recovery, I had cereal and ice cream every single day. I was just like, I got to do this. I got to do this. And then eventually for me, I was like, I don't even like, yeah, the ice cream sounds good, but I don't want it. So I first developed that trust with the food that like, okay, I can eat it. The second piece that I didn't know about for a long time after was the mental restriction that often continued to lead me into binge eating. So for example, if I would have started eating ice cream, but the whole time I was eating it, I was thinking, oh my God, what am I doing? I shouldn't be doing this. This is going to go against all my work. I can't believe this. Okay, after this stupid bowl of ice cream, I'm never buying it again. I can't believe I bought it. That would just really feed into, of course, me going back for another bowl of ice cream, maybe not that day, but the next day, because there was still so much of that anxiety. So a lot of it was that self-talk of, I'm literally doing nothing wrong here. I'm allowed to eat this ice cream and I'm going to actually sit down and enjoy it. I'm not going to do 17 things while I'm doing it. I'm not going to buy Halo Top. I'm not going to have 2 tablespoons and pretend it's satisfying. Like, I'm going to eat a bowl of ice cream. And just that allowance around food for me really was like, oh, okay, I can be safe. Because I think a lot of people, when they come in and they're like, listen, I don't restrict. Listen, and I get it. I was the same way. I was like, if you saw what I ate, trust me, restriction is not a thing. And I'm like, okay, maybe physically you're eating more than you need, but why? Why are you eating more than you need? Are you getting enough of the major macronutrients? Is every single time that you do have cake or ice cream or a roll, you're thinking, I'm bad, I'm wrong, I shouldn't be doing this? Because that is as big of a problem as physical restriction. Like both of them are going to lead you to binging. So it was that allowance and addressing that mental restriction piece for me that was just like, oh, okay. That desire to binge was just like significantly reduced.
Absolutely. I think restriction more often than not is mental more than anything. Because, and especially it's really hard to feel okay eating the ice cream when you just have that constant track in your head. I find a lot of times when I ask clients about, you know, the last time they binged and if they were eating some ice cream, and they're like, it just felt like it was gone so fast and it wasn't enough. And I was like, well, what were you thinking about when you were eating it? And they were like feeling guilty the whole time. They were thinking about when it's going to be over. They're never going to have it again, even though they're literally having the ice cream right then and now, but they don't enjoy it because their mind is somewhere. It's like, you know, having sex, but you're not thinking about it at all.
Like,
where are you?
Right, exactly. I mean, and sex and intuitive eating are so similar, right? It's like when you're completely shut off from your body, you can't, sex doesn't feel good. You're just like, oh, let's get it over with. And the same thing with ice cream, right? You're just like, oh, okay, let's just hurry, because you're so panicked the whole time that you don't actually get to taste it. So you might as well just not eat it, because, you know, Sarah, the binge eating therapist, I don't know if she's the one that originally created this, but she said, we think about food all day long until we're actually eating the food. And I was like, damn, that is so true. Like, I never really thought of that we obsess until we actually eat the food. And then we're like on our phone, watching TV, doing all shopping online, like doing 1,000,001 other things besides eating the food.
Yeah, absolutely. And God, that's another thing. Like, just sit down and pay only attention to food. Like, don't go on Facebook. I still, of course, I'm a human being. Like, I eat food while watching TV sometimes and stuff like that. But it was really important for me to practice just sitting down, having nothing in front of me, and eating whatever I was eating and being there with it. It's not a common practice I always do anymore, but it really helps you actually enjoy the food and mindfully eat and feel a lot more satisfied.
Absolutely. And you made such a good point there about it's not something that you have to do all the time and now. And I think that that's so important for people to remember as they kind of go through this work, that like what you need to do in the first year of your relationship with food stuff is not what's going to need to be done forever. Like, it's really not. And so really give yourself the space, the love, the compassion, whatever it is that you need those first 6 months to a year, when you're really just kind of like still not feeling super strong around the food and body stuff. because it will get stronger over time, and then you can just have pizza whenever, right? But if you're really
Mm-hmm.
not at the place where you can sit down and just eat pizza or keep tons of chocolate and cupcakes and snacky things in your house, like, you don't have to be there yet. Like, let yourself be wherever you are in the process, and that's going to look different for everyone. With alcohol, for me, that was a huge thing. I mean, I remember I was in my first year or two of sobriety, and one of my friends was having his 21st birthday, and I wanted to go so bad. And I was like, I can't. Like, I have so much anxiety about doing this. I
Mm-hmm.
can't go. And I had to ask my mom to take all the alcohol out of the fridge. I was like, I don't think I'm going to drink it, but I can't. There's something about that that's making me so stressed. And now there's beer downstairs. I don't care. I go to bars. I don't care. There's
Mm-hmm.
chocolate in the cupboard, there's Twizzlers in the cupboard, it doesn't matter. But early on, it was just like, okay, this is what I need for myself now. And I know that this is going to be temporary. So letting yourself have whatever it is as you go through kind of these phases.
Yeah, that's a good thing to call out, because a lot of people think, do I have to do this forever? They look at, you or me and think I should be there already. And
Yeah.
that's, we have more time under our belt. We went through that. The things that
Yeah.
I did initially in recovery aren't the same as what I'm doing now. And
Totally.
there's sometimes a gap there. So it is important to just give yourself leeway. If you need the extra support, it's like training wheels, you need
Yeah.
them, and then eventually you'll be off on your own.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking about this on a walk the other morning, because, as your clients, I'm sure too, are real go-getters, overachievers, and they're like, I just want to be there now. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
if you broke your leg and you were in a cast for months, you wouldn't, the day you get your cast off, go run a marathon. You have to start with some physical therapy. And this doesn't mean you're going to have to do physical therapy forever, but you've got to strengthen that muscle up, and then you can run the marathon,
Mm-hmm.
do ultras if you want, who cares? But at least let yourself build up this muscle in the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. So shifting gears a little bit, because I
Yeah.
think you do a great job of this. How do you even begin to like and appreciate your body? Because I struggle with that still sometimes. And I know a
Mm.
lot of my listeners, like, it's, sometimes people are in the phase too, where they don't even want to look in the mirror and they avoid it at all costs. And I have one client who she's working on it now, kind of getting dressed in clothes she actually likes, but she usually wears like
Yeah.
baggy clothes, just like not
Yeah.
to even look at it.
Yeah.
Where do you start there?
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's such a great question. I mean, my body has been a variety of sizes,
Mm-hmm.
and at my heavier weights, like, I relate, I used to tell people before I would hang out with them, like, I know that I've gained weight. I would like
Oh,
preemptively tell them, like, I just want you to know that I know that I look like this, and it's temporary. Like, I'm working on it, but I need you to know that I know I'm not okay. And just that
yeah.
constant, just, oh, it breaks my heart to think about doing that. But, it was also a process for me. Something that has helped is, well, first of all, when you're not binging and purging, like, I just think that doing that, like, when you stop doing that, for me, my confidence went up so much, because when I would binge and purge, I
Yeah.
would feel so shitty and so guilty that I would kind of try and overcompensate the next day, because I was like, I just felt so awful about myself. And so really starting with just eliminating that piece was like a huge mood booster. And when you don't binge and you're not, especially purging, like, the swelling in your face starts to go down, the bloating and gas starts to go down, like, you just
Mm-hmm.
genuinely start feeling better. But then in addition to that, this is something I have every single client do, that I personally did too. I actually didn't do this until a few years ago. And even then I'm like, wow, this is actually really still helping me, is to follow women your size or larger on social media. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and not just like the Ashley Grahams of the world, not just beautiful hourglass plus size women, like women with just, like, quote, normal bodies, like just larger women your size, living life. We got some tummy rolls, we got some soft arms, we got some neck stuff, like whatever, but just really seeing normal women, like, I'm using this in air quotes too, normal women, like, living their life, was huge for me. Also, exercise is a big one for me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
when I'm active, I feel strong. I feel really good. Even if when I look in the mirror, I'm like, hold up. You mean I don't have abs? Like, wait, what? Because I'm pretty sure I feel like I have abs right now and there's clearly no
Right.
abs. Like, I feel strong. Like, exercise makes me feel strong. And I really want to say that exercise today is significantly different than exercise 10 years ago. Like, I will genuinely go into the gym and I'll be there for 15 minutes. And if I'm tired and I'm bored or I'm not feeling it, I leave. Whereas before it was like an hour and then hit and then run after it and then bike to the gym and bike home and blah, 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 blah. And, you know, it's like, oh, it's like so boring. I'm just going to go to the gym for 15 or 20 minutes, but it really helps me boost my own confidence in feeling strong, and lifting weights has been really helpful. And then exactly like what you said is buying some clothes that freaking fit your body. Like that is the easiest and fastest way to like your body, in my opinion, is buy some damn clothes that you like. Like, stop squeezing yourself into this. Stop trying to pretend that you like that. Like, go out and buy some pieces of clothing that you like in the body you have today. And it's out there. Don't settle with stuff that's like, nah, like really like it, you know, really like it. And the last thing I will say is really just kind of taking some time to do some things for me, where like, whether it's a face mask, whether it's painting my nails, whether it's a manicure or pedicure, whether it's getting my eyebrows done, you know, a massage, but just like something to kind of slow down that makes me feel pretty. I made a post once. I have this stupid thing that you like do on your face. It's supposed to take off the dead skin. I don't think it does anything, but when I do it, I'm like, I feel extra proud of myself. I'm like, look at me. I'm like spending this extra time doing this, right? It's starting to prioritize yourself. So those are really some of the biggest things that I think can help with body image. And also just remembering, like, some days just suck. Some days, especially for women, God help us, like once a month for about a week, it's like, I gained so much weight and what's wrong with me? And I'm breaking out. Like, God, it's rough. And you know what? Just put on the sweatshirt, put on the leggings, and like do your thing. And really remembering that, like, oh yeah, it's just my period, like right on time. And knowing that like perfect body confidence and loving or even liking your body every day is a very unrealistic expectation.
Yeah, no, my boyfriend, he once said something to me like a few months ago where he's like, I don't think anyone feels 100% confident in their body all the time. And I was like, yeah, that's true. You know, people have bad body image days. It's just that a lot of those people that aren't struggling maybe with what we struggled with don't let it completely ruin them or make it mean that they're less valuable as a person or whatever. And I completely agree that everything you said, well, even following people on Instagram, it's still like taking care of your mental health, but it's prioritizing you. You know, it keeps teaching these little things that you're doing for yourself. Exercising. When you make time for exercise, you're making time for you. When you take care of your body, you're making time for you. And when you're buying clothes that actually fit you, you make time for you. I had such a hard time buying myself a larger size. And it's so funny because I'm naturally built like just a little bit larger, like I'm taller, wider, like I'm never going to fit into a small, extra small. And yet I would always like, want to squeeze into it. It's like, why? You look so much better in just a size up. It makes no sense, but you just get obsessed with that size and you make it mean something that it doesn't.
Yeah. Well, and women too, I mean, we're really fed the message that our sole purpose on life is to stay small and not age. Like, really, that is deeply, deeply, deeply ingrained in us, in our society, in our culture. And it doesn't matter if it comes at your own mental health costs, right? Like, as long as you look okay, everything's fine. And so I think really taking it back to, how do I feel? Like, do I like this exercise? Do I like the taste of this food? Do I like the feeling of these clothes? Like, what makes me feel good? The purpose of my body isn't to just be an ornament, right? Isn't just for me to continually manipulate it. It's like my body has such a bigger purpose than just that, and really tapping into that and just doing things that you enjoy, right? Whether it's strength training, whether it's kayaking, whether it's crocheting, whether it's sewing. Like one of my clients really started getting into sewing dog little bandana things. And like, so putting that energy that would once be spent binging, obsessing about food, obsessively exercising, it's like, let's put it into something that you actually enjoy. And that's not to say that you can't find that love or excitement from exercise, but like, what else is there too, right? Adding more stuff into your life.
Yeah. I think that, looks, appearance, it can definitely be a part of your life, but it can't be everything. And it most certainly is not everything. And appreciating your body for what?
You're going to age. Like,
I know it's going to go away.
Beat it. Yeah. Unless you just die. And then like, so if we're lucky enough, we're going to age and it's like, how can we age gracefully? How can we age with like dignity and pride and feel good about ourselves?
You know what I thought aged pretty gracefully? She was on, oh my goodness, she was on Freaky Friday with Lindsay Lohan. What is her name? Is it Jennifer or something like that? I feel so bad. She was just on a new movie, like a mystery movie on Netflix or whatever, or maybe Amazon Prime, but it bothers me. Oh well, whatever. It's gone now. But yeah, aging with grace is so important, and it is going to go away. And like, even, you can pay attention to your looks at all phases of life, but when I started looking at my body for what it could do, and that it's really just, I'm thankful that it's alive, first of all. So nice that I have hands and thumbs and eyes and things like that. But it's a vessel to experience life with. It's not necessarily for anyone else but you. I heard something interesting a while ago that really made me stop and think, that it was about women and attraction, but that women are always trying to be desirable. And this person said something along the lines of, why don't you try to be desirable for you? It's like, it's different. And it's like, oh yeah, I'm always like focused on what my body can be to other people. Why don't I focus on what I want it to do for me, and appreciating it and desiring my own body? Like, who would have thought? It's a nice concept.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, okay. I know I've taken up a lot of your time, and I appreciate you being on here and everything. What I always like to ask people before they leave, first of all, what's one thing you might say to someone who's going through whatever type of, I think you said Tasmanian devil sort of whirlwind of bulimia, which I liked. What's like a parting piece of advice you would give to them?
Oh gosh, I would just say, like, if this resonates, like, if you I don't know about you, but for me, I kind of always had this like flicker of like, I think I'm gonna get it. Like, I feel like I think I can do it. Is just like, don't give up, right? There is no timeline that you have to achieve this by, but I would really just encourage anyone out there that's just kind of in the depths of it or in the throes of it, to not put a lot of pressure on themselves to get it right away, but to just keep taking these little steps, listening to the podcasts, reading, educating yourself, and trust that this is 1000% possible for you too. And adding that pressure of like, oh, when am I going to get it? When am I going to get it? Is not going to be helpful. And so it's just like, okay, I'm going to trust that this is happening for me. What's the next thing that I can do? Because I just like, oh my gosh, my decade and a half of life struggling with bulimia was just, it was so hard. It was so hard. And I just, I would never wish it upon anyone. It was just such a life suck. And so I really just hope that people out there are listening are like, I hope that you take a shred of hope. I hope you take more than a shred, but I hope that you continue listening to Jacqueline's podcast and just finding support to help you on your journey, because, that was what it was for me. I mean, I tried so many things: treatment centers, therapists, counselors, personal trainers, right? And I had to go through all of that stuff to kind of reach where I am now. So I would really just say, keep going. Absolutely. Keep going.
Oh, yeah, that's so heartwarming. And you're right. When people start, I find this too, sometimes people start working with me and they put all this pressure on themselves to
Yeah.
get it right away. And it's like, no, you don't know your timeline. Let's calm down. It's okay. And
Yeah.
even just like, what is the next step? You said that. And I think that's such a better way to look at it than, what is the one thing I can do that's going to change everything? It's like, no, what can I do today that might make things a little bit better and it would help?
Yeah, that's huge, is like staying in today, because nothing will make you want to binge or purge more than thinking about tomorrow's dinner, later tonight, next week, what they're going to think of you. And so really just like, okay, today is my only job. This is it. I just have to make it through today. Whatever happens tomorrow, I don't know if I'm even going to make it. So all I'm going to focus on right now is this meal today.
Absolutely. And to be honest, I still do that a lot with my own business and everything now.
Totally.
It's harder for me. I'm still trying to be that person, I plan quarters a little bit and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, a lot of times I'm like, okay, what do we need to do today? And it's just like these baby steps help everyone. You don't have to have your whole life plans to be successful or anything like that.
Absolutely.
And speaking of podcasts that you guys could listen to, where can they find you, Renae?
Yeah, they can listen to me on Ditch the Binge. Got a podcast there. I'm also really active on Instagram. It's just at Renae Saager. So you can find me both those spots.
Her podcast is fabulous. I listen to it. I like it. Give it some love and everything. And it's also very honest and unfiltered. Plus, you have a lot of great guests on there too. I must say, I'm always following you and seeing what guests you're snagging. I'm like, how did you do that? I'm gonna have hopefully, maybe I shouldn't say it on here, but she has been, I think it's Jen Cesario. She was on the she will. Oh, no. She's not that one. Judith Gatan. Sorry.
Oh, Judith. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't. They're both amazing, but I don't have the Viewer Badass yet. But Judith from the Life Coach School podcast, she's going to be on here talking about style and fashion. But so it's like, yes.
She's so great. She's so great. Your people are going to love her. She's a hoot. And she's just like really real. Like, I think you're really going to appreciate her honesty and just how she comes to life with things. She's so great.
Absolutely. That's why I want her on, and everything she teaches, I think, will be valuable. But yes, listen to Ditch the Binge, guys, if you haven't heard already, and go to her Instagram and everything. You're fabulous. Renae, thank you for being on the podcast today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I love the work that you're doing. It's so important. I'm so glad you're doing it.
Thank you. Likewise.
Hey, if you like this episode, you have to come check out the Binge Breakers Recovery course. If you're trying to recover from bulimia and you're sick of doing it alone and you feel like you've tried a lot of traditional therapies and it's not working with you, come join the course. Go to bingebreakers.com/recovery-course.